So should we get started on this particular issue? Australia Day should continue to be celebrated on January 26th. So just a bit of background, Australia Day is celebrated. It is a public holiday, but it does have some dark history in the sense that it is celebrated as the day Captain Cook landed on Australia's shores. So there's a lot of connotations around how Australia was colonised, the cultural genocide that took place with the native Indigenous Australians. So there is a growing debate in Australia over the last 5 to 10 years in particular around why should we celebrate Australia Day, given that it's associated with all the violence and the torture that it is. So there's a growing concern among the left to revoke the day and have it as a different day. But there is a lot of support on the right because they feel that it's part of our national identity and that we should celebrate it just for the sake of celebrating it. So it is a contentious debate, contentious issue, and therefore it's appearing on the vote compass. So we'll take views. We'll start with Babu Gogineni, if that's okay.
Right. When I looked at what was happening in Australia, I was immensely impressed that as a response to people's demand for it, the anthem, the national anthem of Australia, was amended to include, I think, young people and old people or some kind of adjustment. It's not the content itself, but the fact that people said, let's change the anthem and make it better, and it was done. Now, I think that's an amazing thing. Imagine that happening to the French Marseillaise or the English God Save the Queen or the Star Spangled Flag banner or the Indian one. Incidentally, we are celebrating or marking Rabindranath Tagore's birthday. Was it yesterday or today? The one who wrote the national anthems, not just for India, but whose writings were taken as the anthems for India, for Bangladesh, previously East Pakistan, and the one who composed the Sri Lankan national anthem was a student of Tagore, and he worked on it. So just I thought that aside would be interesting to keep in mind. So if a country is so open in a constructive way, not destructive, to include more people, to make it more modern, it's something to welcome. And Australia has had a very challenging history, has it not? There was, until 50, 60 years ago, a whites only Australia. Now, it was Aboriginals only, people who had come here, people who left Africa, went via India when the sea levels were much lower 50,000 years ago, when it was possible for people to travel in small boats, sometimes wade through the water, and they reached Australia.
Thank you. So we're back on Zoom now, but the question remains, Australia Day, should we continue to celebrate it on January 26th? So Babu Gogineni was speaking before we got cut off in our previous call.
Yes, as I was saying, it's very interesting that in Australia, when the people wanted it or people took the initiative and got the national anthem slightly modified, altered to improve it, to make it more inclusive. I think if people want to review the 26th of January, it should be possible because of the special background to 26th January. There have been the native Australians, by which we mean the ones who migrated here from Africa via India 50,000 years ago. And then the people who came and colonized this place and who until the 1960s, after they took over, asked for a whites-only Australia. whereas the original inhabitants were not white at all. So there is a contentious background. It is important to come to terms with history, and you can't rectify a historical wrong, but you can change the way you look at it today. And I would say it's a very interesting thing. Hopefully, the nation will be involved in deciding whether 26th of January should be Australia Day or some other day. Today, it's a country of equals. Let everyone decide, discuss and decide, and then close the discussion for some time at least. You can't have these discussions going on and on and on about the identity of a country. It'll be good for everyone to come together, make a decision, and go on for a couple of generations without revisiting that. That's what I think.
Awesome. Aditya, did you have anything to add?
I was asking Vijay sir, but is there really a big need to revisit the date at all? Because now with the modern concepts of Australia, from where it had been, all the indigenous people are also being inclusive now, and then the rights are equal. They've got equal opportunities. Do we still have to draw that line? Every year this debate comes during the Australian Day around August 26th, that half of the people will say that no, it has to be revised again because of the atrocities that happened in the past, and few says no, it's one nation, one country. It's the first ship came around that time, August 26th. So why do we need to change? Is the date really changing? The date means a lot, or really including people into the society is the right thing that we should look forward?
For me, Aditya, it's really a way of managing the demand rather than the question itself. I prefer that questions that keep coming up every year, ritualistically almost, should be handled with a view to close them, one way or the other. Now, if it's not 26th of January, it'll be some other date, right? I'm okay with that. And if there are many people who think it can be changed, then the change will happen. But once you have, with modern technology, a referendum, online referendum is possible. Why not do it? So that this is not what distracts Australians from being happy citizens. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, where should
did
we
you want to add to
stand
that?
here, Arjun?
Sorry?
For this particular question, where do you think we should stand?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a personal opinion, isn't it? I mean, for me, I think there's no other reason to hang on to that particular date. I just don't see that date having any value to people today, the generation today. So I think there's some good suggestions. I think Don Bradman's birthday is a good one to have as a cricket fan, as an Australian cricket fan. I'd love to see that happen, or even 8th of May, because May 8 annotates to mate, which is very Australian. So that's another suggestion. So I think if we can be as inclusive as possible, and like Babu Gogineni says, we can have a democratic referendum to make this decision. Of course, you'll need someone with the right type of leadership to come forward and make this change from a government perspective as well, which we haven't seen in decades, that kind of leadership. So that's the main key, I feel.
But if they want to change, why not, instead of a cricketer's birthday, I mean, a fantastic man, why not the 10th of December, International Human Rights Day?
Yeah.
I mean, or how else, or what better way of defining a nation than by its commitment to universal human rights? Yeah. And the UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was adopted by the then independent countries of the world in 1948, is a moral Magna Carta, as they say, for the world. Why not that?
Yeah, absolutely. All great alternatives, I feel. So it should be put to vote. All right, the second question. So what share of childcare costs should be paid